What actually happens to $10,000 over time? Not in a fantasy scenario. Not in a perfect investing strategy. But in a real life, with real bills, real habits, and real decisions. Because for most people in the United States or Europe, $10,000 doesn't quietly grow into wealth. It disappears, slowly, logically, almost invisibly, and the reason is not a lack of income. It's the system they're operating inside, and the way they think within it. Let's take a simple, realistic example. A 26-year-old working professional in a mid-sized U.S. city. After taxes, they bring home around $3,800 per month. Rent takes $1,400. Car payment and insurance together take about $500. Groceries, utilities, subscriptions, another $600. Student loan payments, $300. That leaves roughly $1,000. On paper, that sounds manageable. But then come the small decisions. Eating out a few times a week. Weekend trips. Upgrading a phone. A slightly better apartment next year. By the end of the month, that $1,000 buffer is gone. Sometimes more. So when this person finally manages to save $10,000, it feels significant. And it is. But what happens next is where things quietly go wrong. Because the instinct is not to invest that money. It's to protect it, or to reward themselves with it. So the money sits in a bank account. Or part of it gets used. A vacation, a new laptop, a car upgrade, nothing extreme, just normal life. And within a year, that $10,000 is no longer intact. Now, here's the part most people don't calculate. Let's say instead, that full $10,000 was invested. Not aggressively, just a basic index fund, returning an average of 7% annually. After 10 years, that money becomes about $19,600. After 20 years, roughly $38,700. After 30 years, just over $76,000. No extra contributions, no complex strategy, just time and consistency. Now compare that to the original scenario, where the money slowly disappears. The difference is not just $10,000. It's the lost future value of that money, which is tens of thousands of dollars. And this is where the real mistake becomes clear. It's not spending. It's not even saving too little. It's interrupting compounding before it has time to work. Because compounding is not dramatic. It doesn't feel productive in the beginning. In fact, for the first few years, it feels like nothing is happening. And that's exactly why most people abandon it. There's also a psychological layer to this. When someone reaches $10,000 in savings, their brain shifts. They no longer feel financially fragile. They feel safe. And that sense of safety often leads to relaxed decision-making. Spending feels justified. Risks feel smaller. The urgency disappears. But financially, nothing has actually changed. $10,000 is not wealth. It's a starting point, and treating it like a milestone instead of a tool is where progress stops. There's also lifestyle pressure. In both the US and Europe, there's a subtle expectation to upgrade life as income increases. A slightly nicer apartment, a newer car, better experiences, nothing unreasonable, but each upgrade increases fixed costs, which reduces the ability to invest consistently. So even if someone saves $10,000 once, they struggle to do it again. Now let's look at the same scenario from a different perspective. A financially aware person in the same situation, same income, same expenses, they also manage to save $10,000. But their interpretation of that money is different. They don't see it as extra. They see it as future income. So instead of asking, what can I buy with this? They think, what can this become if I leave it alone? They understand something simple. Money that stays invested tends to multiply. Money that gets used tends to reset. So they invest the $10,000. And more importantly, they leave it untouched. They don't track it daily. They don't react to short-term market changes. They let time do the work. At the same time, they adjust one behavior. They try to maintain a gap between income and lifestyle. Not by extreme frugality, but by resisting automatic upgrades. So when their salary increases, their expenses don't rise at the same speed. This creates space to invest consistently, even if it's just $200 or $300 per month. Now the math changes completely. Because that original $10,000 is no longer working alone. It's being supported by regular contributions. Over 20 or 30 years, this combination creates a very different outcome. Not explosive wealth, but stable, growing financial independence. And importantly, it happens without constant stress, without chasing trends, without trying to outsmart the market, just by staying consistent. Now here's the uncomfortable part. Most people already understand this at some level. They've heard about investing, they've seen the charts, they know time matters, but knowledge doesn't automatically change behavior. Because short-term life always feels more real than long-term outcomes. A dinner today feels real. A vacation feels real. A better car feels real. But a future version of yourself, 20 years from now, doesn't feel real. So the brain prioritizes the present, even when it quietly costs more over time. And this is why $10,000 rarely turns into long-term wealth. Not because it can't, but because it's rarely allowed to. It gets interrupted, redirected, gradually absorbed into lifestyle. The real shift is not about finding better investments. It's about protecting time, because time is what turns ordinary money into meaningful wealth. Without time, even large amounts shrink in impact. With time, even modest amounts grow. So the question is not, how do I turn $10,000 into wealth quickly? The more useful question is, how do I stop breaking the process that allows money to grow? Because once that process stays intact, the outcome becomes much more predictable. Not immediate, but reliable. And that's what financially stable people optimize for. Not speed, not excitement, but durability. A system that keeps working even when motivation fades. Even when life gets busy. Even when income fluctuates. Because in the end, wealth is not built in moments of intensity. It's built in long periods of consistency. Quietly, almost unnoticed. Until one day, the numbers are no longer small. If this way of thinking helped you see money a little differently, you can subscribe for more calm, realistic breakdowns like this.